What's up, everybody? I'm Ethan with Fight Me on This,
I'm Jill at Coach Jill.April.
and welcome back.
Hi.
How are you guys today? How's your week going? This will get put out next week, so how's the last couple of weeks going? Um, yeah, might as well just get into it. Hards and joys for the week.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
My heart is, well, I don't have to put words in your mouth. My heart is that I am tired of the world sucking. Um, I'm tired of the world being selective about when they care about people. I am tired of the world only caring about people when it's somebody who looks like them. I'm tired of people. It's hard to be a compassionate, empathetic, caring person in this world when it feels like nobody else is. And especially the people that matter. Let me be clear. I am well aware that I have people close to me that are all of those things. And that matters. But when the people in charge of the decisions don't have any of those characteristics, it feels really hard to maintain them. Um, and yeah, it feels hard when me and the people around me have been screaming about the problems in the world for months, years at this point. And then once a white man dies, everybody cares all of a sudden. Even though these problems have been here, they just haven't affected anybody that looks like the people in charge. And that's my spiel.
Yeah, I would say that my heart is in a similar vein. And I don't actually want to talk about this. Because I said my shit. You can see it on TikTok. I'm sure I have a little more to say. But I'm tired of people. I'm tired of friends, acquaintances, white people, people of color on the side of evil over a book. And their entire justification for not wanting to see a white man die is because he had a family and because he was Christian. My heart is that none of those things made him a good person.
I think the narrative tends to be, and everybody always is like, why does everybody hate Christians? Why does everybody hate religion? And blah, 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 blah. Christians are good people. Just because you follow a religion does not make you a good person.
Your God said love.
And you guys,
Your God wrote a book. Your God wrote your fucking faith on love. And you motherfuckers do nothing but hate. Stay over there. And then you get mad at people like me because I have a volume that goes above your precious pussy ass white ears. And you get scared when people of color say the thing aloud that we've been saying. We've been saying it, whispering it, singing it, trying to get you motherfuckers on board. And then someone like you finally catches a well-deserved bullet. The same bullet that he wished on people like me. The same bullet that he wished on people like you. And you have the caucasity to try to honor him because he was human, to grieve him because he was Christian. No, you grieve him because he's white and he looks like you, and it offends all your sensibilities to think that you could catch a bullet for running your fucking mouth. Well, nobody should die for the shit that we say. Really? Really? Because we've been trying to say you out of saying shit since the beginning of time.
but I think people have the wrong idea of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech doesn't actually mean you can say whatever you want whenever you want.
with no consequences.
with no consequence. The definition of freedom of speech is you have the right to speech that does not inflict harm on others.
Racism, sexism,
That
bigotry, transphobia,
that
all have violence in them.
that man specifically did nothing but speak on hate. And I know you said you don't want to talk about it, so we can wrap it up. But I had a conversation yesterday on a lighter note with somebody, because I had somebody from high school I haven't spoken to since high school tell me I needed God because I care when more than just white men die. Uh, and I made a joke. I'm like, I don't think God wants me, and sent a screenshot to one of my friends, and they were like, I fear it's time for another flood. I think his followers have lost the entire plot. And as much as that's a joke, like, I do think a lot of this world, Christians and outside of that, have truly lost the plot on what the fuck we're supposed to be up to within our
I
lives.
don't understand the cognitive dissonance between a man saying death to all that don't look like me. You're not worthy. You're a chink. A moronic black woman. How did you get hired? There should be deaths in order to keep your pew-pews. There's one. Why is that fuck's death not on the list of possibilities of deaths to keep your pew-pews? And people are attacking me for saying that very thing. He manifested his own death, and you thumb-sucking, window-licking ninnies are butthurt because you pray to air that said, oh, as long as you pray to me, you're good. All of you.
Yeah, I said it in a TikTok yesterday, and not even about this man. I could give a fuck about that man and him dying. Like, I yesterday morning was like, I don't actually care about this white man. But we don't get to pick and choose when we care. I made it specifically about gun violence, and I will stand by that. If somebody has never cared about school shootings, about shootings, and we're anti-religion over here, but if somebody's never cared about school shootings in churches, shooting towards groups of people, shootings towards minorities, gun violence towards people that don't look like them, you don't get to care now. You don't get to be like, oh my God, we need to do something now. And this girl I reposted on TikTok wrote a song, and it's like a very gentle song, but it said, if you're, I don't remember the exact words, but it was like, if you're scarred by seeing his blood, run. Thank God there's no cameras in schools. And that's where I'll leave that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not a lot of joy to be had these days.
And it feels, I talked about this on my main account on TikTok too. I posted it on Instagram as well, but it just feels harder to find the good. Like, I very much am in the belief that we are not meant to take in this much information all of the time. And I understand that social media algorithms are built to fearmonger and rage bait and all of the things. And everybody does say and has been saying, be selective about what you consume on social media, curate your feeds, X, Y, and Z. But it just feels like there's nowhere to go anymore. Yesterday, I did a lot of activities to keep me off of my phone. I went live on TikTok because then at least I'm not scrolling. One of Ethan's partners was here last night, and typically I would just like hang and sit on my phone, but I was like, I have to keep my brain busy because if I sit here and scroll on my phone, it's not going to be helpful for anybody. So this is just my reminder to you that our brains were not built to consume this much stress and this much stimulus all the time. And as hard as it may be, you are allowed to put your phone down. You are allowed to delete an app off your phone. You are allowed to find a way to keep your brain busy that doesn't involve intaking new information. Um, and as much as it's a habit to intake new information, find something else to do instead. Especially on the days where you feel like there's no hope left, there's nothing good left. Those days where everybody sucks. Remind yourself that you probably do have things that bring you joy outside of scrolling on your phone. Give a trigger warning. We're going to talk about depression, mention suicide. I would do the spiel of like, we're not going to get that deep and dark into it, but
We always do.
it do be our podcast. So
It's okay if you don't have space for this, like really with the way everything's been going this week and in the last few weeks, and will continue to go until this episode's released. We give a trigger warning, and then I usually say fucking deal with it. And I will say that, but I say it with a grain of salt because you don't have to listen. It's okay to not want to take in more information.
You don't have to listen now. You don't have to listen ever. I do, if you have the space, encourage you to stay because I think it's an important conversation, an important realization that even I made a couple months ago. So yeah, let's talk about it. And if at any point you're like, nope, this is too much, there's a pause button. You can come back to us on another day. Topic / realization that I had, which feels silly to say at 28 years old, is realizing that depression is not always wanting to kill yourself. And that might sound very obvious for a lot of people. You might be hearing that being like, what do you mean? I thought that was what it was. Because for a long time I ran that narrative. Ethan and I were at a September 10th was International Suicide Prevention Day. We were at an event for it.
Bridge of Life.
And I told Ethan after that, he asked how the event was for me, and I was like, I feel like I'm very desensitized to suicide, talking about suicide, people telling their stories. It's been in and around me for a long time. And I always, or until the last like year or so, very much thought that the only way you could be depressed is if you wanted to not be here anymore.
Nope.
And what led me to this epiphany was, you guys have either heard the episode or seen the title by now. When I was pregnant for, I don't know, it totaled like five weeks. But the first day when I took the pregnancy test and it came back positive, I was like, cool. I had a feeling it was going to come back positive. Tried to be like as light as I could about it, and then the next day things were not light anymore. I remember sitting at my desk, like trying to work and just staring at the wall, being like, what is my life? Like as if. And I canceled all my client calls, and I literally think I was a ball on this couch for like the whole day. And it wasn't even a feeling of like, I don't want to be alive. It was just a feeling of, I don't want to do this. Today specifically, like, I forget how I specifically explained it to you because it happened when I bled last month too. Of just being like, no, I don't want to exist today. Like, I don't want to die, but I don't want to exist today. I want to turn off my brain. I want to not do. I want to just like not exist. And the first time it happened, I was like, oh, is this depression? And not that depression is a light thing, but just having that moment of being like, hold on, something's going on here, and it's not just
Sad.
me being sad.
Yeah. One of the most important distinctions is that depression is not just being sad. Sad is a natural human emotion. It's a healthy emotion. It's an appropriate emotion. Depression is appropriate when your life has had trauma in it, has had things that go bump in the night. But people are so afraid of the word. And so it gets used in many, many facets of not feeling okay mentally and gets mixed up. And a part of this episode is that someone that lives in and around it, lives with someone with it aggressively, still didn't know it in themselves because of a misunderstood definition of depression. I wish I could remember what sadness was on its own. Before I was clinically depressed, I was a kid, a happy one. And somewhere early on that went away. And people just told me I was sensitive and I was sad all the time and so quick to cry and to be upset and couldn't regulate his emotions. It's not that I couldn't regulate my emotions, I was surfing and cycling through them like Russian roulette, hoping I'd land on one that got me something. Until sadness got on me and I would become immovable puddle, broken by the simplest things. I was a child dealing with depression already. Just nobody knew that. It wasn't until teen years and the acting out came with aggression and violence because I was big enough. It wasn't until I put my abuser in jail, forced into therapy, that someone's like, something's up with this kid. He's not just sad. He's depressed. Ooh, try telling that to a black dude and a white lady that had a mixed baby in the church. Depression isn't real. And it just gets tossed to the side as sadness. And then as adults, when it gets past sadness, when we're balls on the couch, when our legs don't work, when we can't get out of bed, when we have a hair trigger to tears, a hair trigger to sensitivity, a hair trigger to being wounded, we don't have a word for it because it can't be depression. But it is. And that's okay. We can work with depression. We can work on depression. We can't cure sad. It's an emotion. But you can work it with, improve, and heal and cure depression. It happens all the time. And I believe that as we share these stories over this episode, it's to clarify that depression looks a lot of different ways. It can go a lot of different extremes. It can be super soft and gentle until it isn't. I almost lost a friend last night. When you spend a lot of time here, you know the signs that something's up. They sent me a message. It was worded kind of funny, and I was really busy on my day. And I didn't quite clock it until I replayed it. Tism replays your whole day randomly sometimes. And I just remember reading the message again in my brain, and I was like, that it didn't actually sound like my friend. It was fucking 10 o'clock. 9 o'clock, this message that they'd initially sent me was sometime around 6. So I went back to look at it, and it was just worded weird. It was worded in a way that I hadn't heard them talk to me before, even though the first, like, half of it was. And it sparked an alarm in me. I went to check their Facebook to see some whatever they've been posting that day, and they said a very similar thing in their post. And right away I knew something was wrong. I know this person to be depressed, to be clinically suicidal. And it sucked just now to be right. My friend tried to end their life last night, currently sitting in the hospital. I say that story not for sympathy on me and my friend will be okay, or they won't. They will deal with this again. It's not the first time. But I say that when you feel that thing happen, when your friend's talking to you, when someone's talking to you, a loved one, someone you care about, it could be a fucking stranger. We are all actually equipped to hear what they're actually saying because and it elicits a reaction in us. Most of us go, nah, it can't be. It can't be the worst. There's no way this person's. But I challenge you with what's the harm in asking? If I hadn't asked, I wouldn't have got that information this morning. If I hadn't asked, I wouldn't have been able to hold space before this podcast to remind them that they're not a burden, that they are loved. If I hadn't been, I wouldn't have been able to reach out to their best friend, who I don't talk to, who I don't really know. I just know they're friends, and calmly tell them that I think something's up. Now there's multiple people invested in finding my friend. Thankfully, they were found. All the things, they're getting the care they need. But I sussed that out hours late. Even though I sussed it out in the moment. And I ignored that feeling. And I'm not blaming myself. That's not what's happening. I've done enough healing to know it's not my fault. But I do know that I should have messaged back right then. I should have said something right then. Depression doesn't really look different between people. I know it because I live it. I know that I word things different out of a cry for help. Because sometimes it's too hard to just ask. I knew that and I still missed. It didn't almost cost me a friend, but it almost cost me a friend. Their decision was made already, whether I said something, got to them in time, whatever the fuck it was. But I've been in a place where someone happened to message me while I was harming myself, and the harm never went past that. I know what a message at the right time can do.
Yeah, I think especially with the fitting for our start of the episode, the climate of the world is a lot of people feel really alone in their spaces right
Exhausted.
now. They, like I said, feel like nobody cares, nobody wants to care. And something as simple as saying your shit out loud so that somebody else can say theirs can make a difference. Or at least make people feel not so alone. Um, and to Ethan's point, like you probably do know. It's the difference when you ask somebody how they are and they go, I'm good, kind of tired. And when you ask somebody how they are and they say, I'm tired, you can hear it in the tone of their voice. You can hear it in the way they answer. Um, some of us are really great at masking, at lying. You take me outside of this house and I'm pretty good. Ethan's watched me wipe tears and hop on a client call many times. Um, but if you're in somebody's space, in somebody's circle, they'll probably give you a sign. And they're probably hoping you ask. Um, but that, like, tired, I've given up on the world feeling is part of it, whether it comes with self harm.
Yeah. Sorry, my brain immediately goes to this way that we downplay this shit too. And I'm bad for it. To an extent, I've gotten better at honoring the fact that my brain does crazy, fucked up things to me all the time. But people, when asked those questions, will also say, I'm fine. Yeah, but what are you really? No, I'm fine. It's no worse than what you go through. I get that one a lot because I share my story. Like you're in it, you don't want to hear my shit, or it can't be as bad as, or it's everybody's going through something. How did we get to a place where that's the deflection and we're just supposed to accept that?
Somebody has it worse, so I can't.
Like how not like that's a whole that thought, that's a whole other argument. But I really do mean like this fucking everybody's going through it, so don't worry about me. I know you. Fuck everybody else. They have people like me, and if they don't, they need to find them, and they're not my concern at the moment. You are. So why the fuck is your uncomfortable? Why the fuck is your dark? Is your depression? Is your fucking hill to climb not important? And why shouldn't it be important to me? I'm halfway up that hill. We, collectively, if we're all going through it, then shouldn't we also be leaning on one another? If I'm further up the hill and you don't know how to get there, shouldn't you then at least look my way? What's he doing to get over there? The same way that I look at people that are healed, that are further along their healing path, and I learn from them. What are they doing over there? How come I can't figure this thing out? Oh, use your pinky toe, not your big toe. I got it. But we're supposed to just be okay with, well, everybody's going through it, so don't worry about me. No, I am worried about you. I can't make it to everybody. There's 7 billion of you fucks on this planet, and you're right in front of me with a right now problem, with a right now depression, with a right now suicidality. And you think that the answer is to just slough it off like it's nothing. I sloughed off my trauma most of my life. The lifelong horror that I experienced at the hands of parents, and then the subsequent lateral violence of all the communities that I was in, trying to find love and be loved and be better, to ostracize me because of what happened to me. As we talk about these things, and if you haven't noticed in 38 episodes now, there's lots of times that shit's edited slightly funny, or there's a cut, or there's a weird break. And like even as we talk about depression, I recall all the times I've heard shit about children. Like I was a child, and I was left alone in a world to figure it out. Not with parents like most of you had. And I mean that. That's not assuming. That is a fact. At least one parent that most of you had. And it still doesn't compute for me to do this alone. As much as I try to, on instinct, as much as I feel like I have to, when the weight of me is too much for me, it has to be too much for other people. But I have thought that way my whole life. Everybody screams community in these spaces. And I had to build mine. At 30. Why is this important to this story? To this show? Because community is the only way we actually get through mental health. Because real community is the only way that we repair broken connection. The problem with when we say community heals these things is that nobody specifies the community. I went from a church community to a gang community to a church gang community, and I'm still here outside of those communities. The thing at a moment that saved my life was all that violence, because I had to save my life. But how is that healthy community? If the community is toxic, then what's the point? Well, where are all the good communities? If you don't see one, build one. My communities blend with others. They're not mine to keep. The amount of communities I've built and just left to do what they need to do is insane. But it's not mine. It's a community.
I was listening to a podcast the other day. Wow, English is hard for me today. I was listening to a podcast the other day about building community and how to figure it out and how to find it when our world is so much on the internet these days. Or if you're somebody who is isolated for whatever reason and can't find physical community. And she went through a bunch of different ways to like make sure the community is actually safe for you. Finding a common like, finding a niche, making sure you're not expected to blindly follow, making sure you can ask questions.
Can you deliver that in a real voice, please? We're talking to people that may not know this, and you aloofing your head to drag out points like they're just matter of facts is going to fuck people up. Deliver that with intensity. Deliver it directly. You're giving people tools, love. You're giving people something that they may never heard about and protecting their safe spaces and their sanity. Do this thing, do that thing, do this thing is not how we've been talking to these people this whole episode. You haven't been. So please say that again, but say it directly to them. Because they don't know. You do.
I was listening to an audiobook the other day. It's called How to Make Your Brain Your Best Friend. If you're interested. I think I found it on Threads, which irrelevant. Well, not really.
Was it Threads? I
Yeah.
thought you said someone like specifically had suggested
I found it on Threads because my friend Erica
I was like, there we go.
is in Ontario had replied to the post from, it's by a neuroscientist, so it's like actually like the nerd in me needs a little bit of qualification when you're going to tell me how to do something. As much as I think and know that people's written story and written truth is important, it's also important to me that there's a little bit of like, how do I want to word it? It's important to me specifically that somebody can back why they're qualified to tell me how to fix my brain. So it's by Rachel Barr. She's a neuroscientist.
BAR or BARR?
BARR. And she like narrated it herself, which I always like when the author. But anywho, she in one of the chapters was talking about building community and how to do it safely. And how it's really hard because a lot of our life is on the internet now, and a lot of people live in isolation. And she gave the reminder early in the chapter that like your phone is not actually community.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better than nothing? Like if seeking out community through the internet is the only way you can do it, you're safe to do it, whatever it may be, that's better than nothing. But a screen is not actually community, and there is something about finding physical community that has a little more oomph behind it. But she was just saying how like there is ways to go about finding safe communities. So to Ethan's point of like if the communities aren't safe, then not overly helpful. And she brought up points of saying like making sure you have something in common with the people, whatever it may be. Niching down to help you start finding community can be really helpful. Finding some common ground to bond over. Is that how I want to word that? Sure. Whether it be knitting or your culture or an activity or sport you like to do.
That because you got to get your nails done.
Yeah. Finding something where you can go, oh my God, I like that thing also. And then also making sure that the spaces are not built on blindly following. They're not built on not being able to ask questions. They're not built on one person being in charge of the community. We talk a lot about religion, but that's a big thing that made me step away. I was raised very Christian. I've probably said it on the podcast before, but every time I say it out loud to somebody, they're like, what? Like, I went to a Dutch Reformed church as a kid. And it wasn't until I was a teenager and I started to ask questions of being like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, can somebody explain this thing to me? I was met with, no, you just have to believe it. Going back to my point of I like people being qualified to tell me what to do. If you can't tell me why I should do it, I'm not doing it. And I think that's a really important point when you're looking for community, because even in the mental health space, even in queer spaces, there's a lot of spaces where you're expected to do it this way and do it this way only.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not safe.
No. Yeah. I'm not sure what to add to this conversation at the moment. We started this with hoping that people understood that the wide way depression is a misunderstood, but also like if you heard something that registers in your being, if you heard something that you do every day, every other day, a couple of times a week, it doesn't mean anything. Then now you understand yourself a little bit better. What you do with that matters more.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like a part of my misunderstanding with depression was like, I've had a friend since junior high, lost his dad to suicide on every antidepressant in the book. And my brain was very much wired to be like, everybody I knew as a kid growing up, whatever, if they were depressed, they were medicated. Typically fairly heavily. And I think part of my misunderstanding, or I know part of my misunderstanding around depression came from the fact of like, but I don't feel like I need medication and I don't feel like I want to die. So, couldn't be me that's depressed. I'm sure growing up in white religious spaces did not help that narrative either. But that's all to say, like, it's not, if you're sitting here listening and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know. We're not telling you that you now need to go to the doctor and get put on antidepressants and do the thing and blah, 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 blah. I hope
That you
that
don't do nothing.
you have a space to talk about it in some way to somebody you feel safe talking to about, whether that's a therapist or a friend or whatever. I hope you have a space to share your realization with somebody you feel safe to share with. But we don't have an expectation of now you know, so go get medicated.
Yeah, I also hope that you just feel seen. Like, really. Maybe some of you that hear this for the first time. Like, Jill lives and has lived with people with mental health, but she lives with me. And it wasn't until the last 6 weeks, 2 months that this realization happened.
Your depression's allowed to look different.
I hope that something that was said gave you a light bulb moment, an aha moment, I see myself better moment. Like, I've had so many of those, learning names for what was afflicting me. I just thought I was being a good Christian, letting my parent fuck me. Because you have to honor thy father. You have to be good. You can only listen. Stockholm Syndrome. Indoctrination. A personality disorder somewhere in there. Clinically depressed. ADHD. Autistic. None of these things made me run to treatment. They let me sit there and go, oh shit. There's no price, there's no dollar value that I can put on knowing yourself better, on understanding yourself better. You want to change the world? Understand yourself better first.
It's big and scary sometimes, but it also allows you to let go a lot of guilt, misunderstanding, frustration within yourself. Um, Knowing that that's a thing that I have sometimes just helps me be like, one, prepare for it. It's going to happen probably every time I bleed.
What's the word for that? You said PMSSS?
PMDD.
Dang, I was close. I was close. There was others, doubles. There was doubles.
Tech PMDD. This is my. I won't get on a whole spiel about it, but this is my like limbo with PMDD. Is technically PMDD is premenstrual. So like by the book, it's supposed to happen before you bleed.
Mm.
But I don't really have another category to fit into. Right. In my brain, if it's linked to my menstrual cycle, that's the appropriate definition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think sometimes it just helps to know that it is a thing. And then allows you to explore tools that help you deal with the thing.
Yeah, like I really spent my whole life until I was 28 thinking that I was as talkative and as wild and out as I was in class because of my trauma. Because of my social butterflyness. That's all it was said until my therapist was like, I'm going to get you to read this book and then I want you to come talk to me about it. And 3 fucking pages in, I was like, yo, do I have ADHD? Because the first 3 pages are me up until this point in my life every day. And this man whole ass looked at me, for those of you who've been paying attention to the podcast in my book, and said, nobody told you yet? And in that moment, like, my entire school career made sense to me. My can't sit still, why it said social butterfly on every report card I've ever had, doesn't do well on his own. unless you lose sight of him. Then he's just fine on his own. Because if he can't be seen, he just can't be, so he just poofs. And you find me somewhere in school, usually with a book. But like at almost 30, it was one of the most weightlifting, as well as confusing after that, but weightlifting moments of my life because it wasn't me. I wasn't a bad thing. I wasn't the bad kid they said I was. I wasn't all of these fucking terrible things that people said I was. My brain was just wired differently. How beautiful to not be a problem all of a sudden. To get to see yourself without the monikers of bad kid. Because you weren't being bad. You were living with the way your brain was wired. Is wired. But now what? For me, it was immediately, now what? What do I do with this new information? That doesn't mean you have to ask yourself, now what? If all you do is learn something new about yourself, that's plenty. But, now what?
I'll let go. Yeah. If nothing else, we hope this helps you understand you.
Someone, even. Your partner, your friend, any coworker. Fuck, these people matter. I don't give a fuck if you only see them at work. You're there for 8 hours.
Spend a lot of your time at work.
So when one of your coworkers does something out of character, alerts your being to something being wrong. Hey, how are you doing? No, I'm sure you're okay. You said something earlier. You just had a look on your face like you were off in space, and that's not usually like you. Not that I watch you, but I do care, and I just wanted to check on you. That's the end of care right there. That's all it takes. They could tell you to fuck off. They could unload their whole life on you.
They could come back in
6 months?
6 months and be like, hey, remember that one time you asked me about that thing?
Thank you for checking. And, yeah,
Yeah, we hope it just helps you understand you, the world, your people, anybody a little bit better. And I hope that if it was a light bulb moment for you, you realize that your mental health doesn't have to look the same as somebody else's.
and your journey to healing doesn't either.
Me and Ethan's mental health looks very different, even though we both fit under the depression wheelhouse. They do not look the same, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And like Ethan said, you don't have to go and do anything, but at least
You know.
now you know. As always, if you feel comfortable to share, if you did have a light bulb moment and you want to share it in as little or as much as you feel comfortable with, comments are on Spotify or YouTube. You can send us a DM, always either individually or to the podcast account. If you don't know by now, you can find the podcast at Shifting Lens Podcast everywhere. You can find me at CoachJail.April.
You can find me at Fight Me on This.
Catch you guys next time.
Peace.